So yesterday in class we looked at what makes a great essay, things like having a strong claim, using essay structure, including evidence, all of those things that I asked you to look at in your own essay last night for homework and to label. So I'll come around and check that that's ready to go. I intentionally did not discuss your conclusion yet because I wanted you to have your thinking done before you thought about your conclusion. And today I want to share with you some quick notes about how to do a conclusion. Then I'll share my conclusion with you to show you the pattern that I used in the conclusion so you can imitate that in your own work later today. By the end of class today, you should definitely have your first draft done, including a conclusion now, by the end of class today. And then by class tomorrow, you should have a second draft ready to roll. So we have a lot of work ahead of us. Let's make this quick. The first thing is, when you're making up your conclusion, when you're writing your conclusion, I want you to think, so what? Think about what is the big deal? Why is your reader reading this essay? What does it matter? What is the so what? And that will help you lead from your analysis to a conclusion that feels finished. The next thing that I want you to think about is kind of the structure of a conclusion. I have to admit that conclusions, as we learn how to write conclusions as literary analysts, they start off really boring. There's a pattern I'm going to show you that I'll ask you to copy, and it's not very creative. I want you to list the main ideas in order from your boxes and bullets planning sheet. So you drew up a planning sheet. Mine looks like, where am I? Mine looks like this. Idea 1, 2, 3. In your conclusion, you're going to go back and write idea 1, 2, 3, right in order. Mr. Bishop calls this, in your intro, he says you're going to tell him what you're going to say. And then in the body paragraphs, you tell him. And then in your conclusion, you tell him what you just told him. And to be honest, when you start to learn how to write an essay like this, it feels pretty repetitive. That's okay, because eventually you'll develop some ways to branch off and make this more exciting. For now, though, you just need to know the pattern. So you put your boxes and bullets ideas in order in your conclusion, using new words, not just repeating yourself. I want to show you how I did that in my essay in a moment. Another thing for your essay, I want you to avoid using in conclusion. You might think back to the past, and maybe a teacher told you to use transition words in an essay. And I agree, you should use transition words. Tomorrow I'll talk to you about how to use transition words effectively. If your transition words are only telling me the order or what paragraph I'm reading, then I want you to delete them. So instead of saying in conclusion in your concluding paragraph, let's just cross that off. If you think back to your body paragraphs, do you use first, second, third in your body paragraphs? First, Scrooge changes when blah, blah, blah. If you use first, second, third, you're just telling me the order. I know that by reading your essay. So we can get rid of those words. More on that later. I'll ask you to start your conclusion with a restatement of your thesis. I'll show you what I mean by that in a moment. Ending strong is the big deal, and it's the hardest part. For me, I'm terrible at conclusions. I have to write the whole essay, set it aside, and think about, so what, how do I want to end this so I can end strong? It has to be a sentence at the end of your conclusion that feels like an ending without saying the end. Never, ever again will you ever write an essay or a story and write the words the end at the end. That's what sixth graders do. Do not write the end. Got to take your reader to a deeper level. Wait till you see what I did. And then I even got deeper when I was reading it to my last class. Maybe think about irony in your conclusion. Maybe appeal to your reader's emotion. Make them think about how they feel about what you've had to say. And maybe call on them to change. Ask them to think about a change for themselves as your reader of your essay. The things we don't do in a conclusion, we don't put quotes in a conclusion because your analysis of the story is done by the time you get to the conclusion. So no more quotes from the book. No words like firstly, secondly, thirdly. That sounds like Dr. Seuss's writing. And no new analysis. Nothing that's brand new. Nothing that you haven't brought up before from the story. because your conclusion shouldn't feel like more analysis. It should feel like, I told you what I told you, and here's why that was important. Okay? So here's my example. By the way, these notes are available on Google Classroom if you feel like you need to look at them again, or if you need a reminder. But this page might be more helpful to you because it shows you my pattern. Da-da-da. Remember, my essay is about all summer in a day, so you're not going to write a conclusion that looks like mine or has these same characters mentioned, but you will probably follow the same pattern. So before I even read it to you, here's the pattern that I want you to use. The top, the beginning, restates your thesis. That's the first thing that you'll do in your conclusion. The next thing that you do is summarize the main parts of your essay, probably recapping the boxes and bullets. The last thing that you do is a final provocative thought. Provocative means it makes your readers think. It provokes their thought. Okay, so before I can restate my thesis, I had to go back and look at my thesis from the draft of my essay. My thesis, my claim, was here. One lesson the story suggests is that when people can't get over their own pain, they sometimes wind up hurting others. Everything I've said in my essay backs this up. Now I need to restate that idea to begin my conclusion. So here's what I put. Because the children can't get over their pain, they end up miserable and hurting others. Same thought, different words. It's my claim one more time. Now my job is to summarize the main points of my essay. I take about a sentence to explain each of my body paragraphs. After the sun leaves for another 7 years and the rain begins again, the children know what they have done. They have experienced what Margot already knew, the warmth and color of the sun. They also lose the sun, and they feel despair of remembering, just like Margot. They relate to her grief and feel shameful for their actions. Margot unintentionally hurt them with her grief, and their jealousy ended up hurting everyone. So, my last step, might not show, whatever. My last step is a final provocative thought. This was the hard part for me. Who was in my study hall earlier? Okay, I was like, go away. If you had a question for me, I shooed you away because I was thinking really hard about what will my final concluding thought be. What will say the end? What will feel like the end without saying the words the end? Here's what I came up with. They will have to live their lives, the children, will have to live with the consequences of their grief and wait for the sun to come out again. I know, it's a provocative thought. I'm sorry that you can't read it up on the board. It's a provocative thought that kind of connects back to what that story is all about. These children, for the next 7 years, are going to have to live in their grief. And actually, as I'm thinking while I'm talking about this now, I even have better ideas about how I might really write my conclusion in my final draft, in my last copy. I'll probably even add something about how their grief and their remorse, like this feeling of shame that they have for what they did, it's probably going to drum on them in the same way that the rain drums on the roof. Like the rain is going to be a constant reminder of this shameful act that they did against Margot. See how I'm connecting that a little bit? So the more I'm thinking by just like talking to you, pretending like you guys are my writing partners, the better my ideas got. I don't have to stick with this draft idea. These notes are available on Google Classroom for you to refer to as you write. Here's your plan for today. You need to finish your first draft by writing a conclusion today, and then you need to proceed probably into writing a final copy. Second draft, really. I want you to type up a second draft. You and your writing partner should confer today to make sure that your plan is a good one, that you followed your plan, and that you're ready to write your second copy by typing it up. Make sense? Okay, go write.